You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 747 episodes of MinneZona Sports Live. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Cameron, a.k.a. Hey Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul the Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
Not a whole lot, man. It is another Wednesday. Did I hear that correct? 147? We're only
Correct.
3 shows away from 150? That
Correct.
is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's insane. I don't know if I can feel my arms, or I don't know if you can feel yours, but yes.
Not right now, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see in a little bit, yeah. We'll kind of leave it at that. It is insane. So we're about 3 away from $150. So
Wow.
it's not too.
That's crazy.
It's not far away. I'll say it like that. It is not too far away. So, Voldy, there's a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, it's a little. There's some bad, but there's some good because the NFL draft is tomorrow. Tomorrow. So, claps out. Yes, one of the most exciting times of the year is drafting players that could possibly make a difference for your favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. We talked about that with Mikey Ryan. We recorded a little segment on Monday so that you guys could get all the draft stuff that you want and whatnot. But we're going to start things off with Tater Tot Hot Take tonight because the Wolves are done.
Yeah.
The Wild are, on the verge of being done. I hope not. But
I hope not.
We want them to keep going in the playoffs here, so there's a lot to unpack. And after that, ARA and Shield shoutouts. So let's just get it going. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Let's get it rolling with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. Our first hot take for tonight is the dramatic season of those Minnesota Timberwolves is over. The Timberwolves fall to the Denver Nuggets, 112 to 109. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's really nothing much else to say. As Zim is cussing here, which, it's over. It's finally over. We're kind of sitting here thinking, well, what else could go wrong? And obviously, myself, Cole Munson, you thought this was a 50-win team. Well, it's 42 wins and
So close.
maybe punching a wall here or there.
Yeah.
40 losses I didn't think was possible, losing to bad teams like Portland, things like that. So, but I will say they didn't get swept. They actually fought till the end, and when I mean they fought, I mean Anthony Edwards fought till the end. And he missed the shot at the buzzer to tie the game and everything, which sucks. And there's a development there, but Voldy, I don't really know how to sum up this Wolves season, but the one word that comes to mind right now for me, dysfunctional.
Yes.
And I think that's the only way that we can describe it and kind of go from there. So, Voldy, your thoughts on the Wolves season and where we go from here?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on dysfunctional because that's the way the back half of the season really was, especially when you lose Cat for, 50 games or something like that?
Yep.
2.5, 3 months out of the season where he should have been on the court working with Rudy Gobert and obviously everybody else, Mike Conley, and even, obviously Ant as well. And it just didn't work, unfortunately. Cat got hurt at a critical time where things were starting to piece together what's going to work, what's going to not, how that's all going to play out, who's going to step out when somebody, obviously is getting time off, load management, or just, time out of the game for 2-3 minutes, and how that is all going to gel together. But that came at a critical time when Cat got hurt, and you would have thought by the time that he was able to get back into action and, with, a handful of games left in the regular season into the postseason, Timberwolves would have taken that and skyrocketed. And unfortunately, even last few games of the regular season, I mean, there was so much infighting and literally fighting each other before they were even fighting out on the court. That just didn't work. And you throw that into the mix, with Jaden McDaniels and obviously with Rudy Gobert and them going at each other as well. I mean, Jaden McDaniels hurting himself, and then obviously with Rudy Gobert mixing things up with another teammate, and then Cat being hurt, and then Ant having to swallow all of that and go off for himself and try to put as much, offensive power as he could in that season. It just didn't work. It didn't work, and you need a whole collective team. I just really hope that this isn't going to be, something that dispels the, the Chris Finch era for the Timberwolves too, because this would be his third season with the Timberwolves, I think. This will be his third season, second full season with the Timberwolves, I believe, because he came over, he took over for, Saunders at the beginning of, I think, 2 seasons ago or whatever.
Correct.
But with another full offseason under that, you get Rudy Gobert in the offseason, hopefully working a little bit more with Cat and crew. That can at least help a little bit. But at the end of the day, the Timberwolves didn't finish off as well as they could have, considering the fact that things need to be put together at the right time, but it's just how it usually goes with Minnesota sports, and it's just not it wasn't good, especially with that incident between Gobert and squad at the end of the regular season. You knew something was going to happen. That with Anderson, and that was the beginning of the end, if you will.
Before I get to my thoughts here, and I agree with you 100%, Voldy, Lucas says, I assume he meant T-Wolves, battled hard, big things for next year.
Yeah.
I would say they did in that game last night. They did give up the lead, which you don't want to see, but at the same time, I'm glad that they didn't just kind of keel over and just let Denver destroy them and be like, well, it's already over. We're going to move on to next, year. But the one person that stepped up, and he's only 21 years old, is Anthony Edwards.
Yep.
And as we have seen this team kind of move towards Ant's team, not Cat, not anybody else, and obviously D'Lo being traded was one of the things that needed to happen, especially him not getting along with Gobert. And then, obviously, Gobert not getting along with some other guys, Kyle Anderson, Slow-Mo. So there's a lot going on there. But here's something that I think we have to consider now. And I gotta say, I'm not the type of person that is going to sit here and say, well, maybe we give them another couple seasons, see how it goes. I think it's time to move on from Cat. I said it. I said it. It is time to move on from Cat. Now, I've given my reasons before, and it's quite simple, actually. One, I think he still thinks he's the guy, right? He thinks that he's getting paid the big bucks to do what he needs to do and things like that. But at the same time, he's not leading by example. There are plenty of times where the Wolves really have to push him in order to be that monster force. And I don't know if anyone or the zoners or whoever else have been tuning in, but to NBA on TNT, Charles Barkley and Shaq, they keep saying he's a good offensive piece, but down low there's just not a lot of grit down there, not a lot of nastiness, and they talk about that, and I think I personally think that's something that you got to look at and say, they're not wrong, they're really not wrong, especially if you have two forces down there with Cat and Gobert. And that not being able to work. And I'm not trying to rip Cat, because he barely played this year, right? And, I don't want to keep harping on that, but at the same time he came back. He didn't look the same. I think he took way too many threes. He's one of the best big men shooting the basketball, but at the same time, why don't you get some value? Why don't you go out and see what the market's like and try and get some pieces, get some picks back, for goodness sake, from that Gobert trade. So that's something to factor in here. And I have no issue if the Wolves hold on to him, but at the same time, I'd explore some trades.
Sell while you're high.
Yeah, yep. Sell while you're high. It's kind of like, I don't want to compare it to baseball with Sano, but it was kind of like that, right?
Should have.
They should have. And, they ended up not doing that. But with Cat, I like Cat. I've never had any really bad, or I've critiqued Cat a lot, but at the same time, we got to see that dog mentality. You know who has that is Anthony Edwards. Cat, maybe, kind of, not really. We don't know, because every time we go to the playoffs, it's like he'll disappear. Then he'll be back for a game.
Yep.
Then he'll disappear. It's like there's too much inconsistency, and that's kind of the big thing with me. So I hate to say it, but I think it's time to move on. And the Rudy Gobert experiment, it's not panning out. It really
it's not working so far.
It's really not. So, Voldy, I have some. I was reading this article, and I think this is perfect for what's going on here with these pups. So there's 4 Timberwolves players that have improved their trade value in 2023. Right now, the first guy that I have kind of listed is Taurean Prince. Okay. Now, I think you could get some draft capital / maybe a role player with him, but it's not the most sexy pick to just kind of get rid of Prince, because I think Prince is very good. Don't get me wrong, but I would maybe consider trading him, but I think he's a very good role player. If they held on to him, that would make sense. Would you agree with that, trading Prince?
Yeah, I mean, I could see the value in trading a guy like Prince, but if you do get rid of, if you get rid of Karl Anthony Towns before that, he's going to be a guy that's going to have to step in a big situation too for the Timberwolves. But I mean, if you do throw out, Taurean Prince, you could definitely get a couple of guys for him. Maybe get at least one decent, maybe 6th man off the bench that could be a starter for you, and maybe even a couple of picks. I think there's still a lot left in the tank for Taurean Prince, who has played fairly decently in his short amount of time with the Timberwolves.
Now, another guy that I'm going to bring up here, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the guy that got in the trade with Conley. I think his stock's up. He played pretty well in the
decently
the playoffs. I mean, I think that would be another trade asset. I mean, his value's going up a little bit. I mean, you're not going to get a first-round pick out of it, but I assume you would agree with that too, Voldy.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get much out of him. You're going to probably have to package him with somebody else and maybe get a player, a 7th guy, maybe a backup forward or something like that. Right. But probably not too much to work with off of that trade.
Right, and I think Ant really likes him too. So
yeah.
I don't know. Did you see that post game thing where he said
I did. Oh yes, I did.
Gorilla nuts. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Okay, number 2, I got Kyle Anderson.
Okay.
Let's just say, I think this depends on more what Gobert does, because I think whatever bridge was... I mean, it's fine that they're all cool and everything after it, but at the same time, it's really looking like maybe they shouldn't be on the same team. Yeah. I think Kyle Anderson is a very good player. Sometimes I think his shot selection isn't the greatest, but at the same time, he's a good defender and he's good off the bench. So I think he could get some value there. But I think that's more of a package deal too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think that's definitely more of a package deal to hopefully, flop him maybe another player around too with Kyle Anderson. I mean, I haven't seen him really play it enough to fully understand his worth too, but yeah, probably another package situation with him too.
All these guys seem more this is kind of more of a package.
Well, that's because the Timberwolves traded everybody away for Rudy Gobert, and everybody that's left worth talking about is obviously in the starting lineup with Cat, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert. You're going to have to eat that for a while, too. Of course, Mike Conley and also Jade McDaniels. He's another top piece that, obviously I think the Timberwolves want to hold on to, unless we're going to throw in Naz Reid into the mix, too. I mean, do you see his future much longer with the Timberwolves, even with, the role that he played on and off this season?
Oh, that's our next player, Naz Reid. I think his value's high.
Yeah.
But I really like Naz Reid, and I think everyone on the team really likes him. He had a bad injury.
He did.
I don't think I'd let him go. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, if you don't trade Cat, then you might have to.
Right.
But I really like Naz Reid. I hope that they hold on to him. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade him yet. I really wouldn't. But who knows? Who knows with this team? So.
Yeah.
Then the breaking news that we got just before the show, Anthony Edwards got in a little bit of trouble, but it wasn't anything that I think we need to be. I don't know. I'm not as overly concerned as I was when I first saw it, but when I first saw it, I thought, wait, who did he hit? You know what I mean? If you've seen the video, he may have nicked somebody with a chair after frustration running into the tunnel about missing the shot. Obviously, it wasn't intentional. He kind of grabbed the chair and was upset and maybe hit somebody or a couple people or something like that. We've seen the video, and apparently he might be fined $1,000 or he could be in jail, according to Denver. So, Voldy, what are your thoughts on that recent development?
Unfortunately, this is just another thing for Timberwolves fans to just continue to scratch their head in the back half of the season, especially the last handful of games, too, and then the fact that Anthony Edwards could be facing even jail time as well. But, I've seen the video, too. I did a quick analysis of it beforehand. You sent me the video, and I looked at it. It from the angle that we saw, it didn't look like he hit anybody, but looking at it too, he could have hit one person, maybe a second, but the way the person was angled to the incident itself, you couldn't really tell. Until we see a second, maybe a third angle of it, there's a lot to refute of it. Obviously, it's word of mouth. He said, she said in this instance as well. With all my legal troubles I've had, I'm going to see from the instance of, a lot of hearsay that's going on. I rest my case, Your Honor.
So, I don't think he's going to face jail time for that. I think he might pay a fine.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, honestly, because the way the things worked out, like I said, the last 3 weeks of the Timberwolves season, I wouldn't be surprised he ended up with some jail time like Malik Beasley a couple seasons ago and just ended up with house arrest, pay the fine, off you go.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either, but at the same time, don't do that to our guy. That's all I gotta say. Please don't. We need him.
Please don't.
He's a good human being, and we want him back. We'll have to talk to Zappa, see what he thinks. All right, let's move on to this Wild team. Voldy, yesterday. Yeah, exactly. Your reaction is perfect. They lose to the Stars. They're down 3-2 after leading. After leading 2-1, they tied 2-2. Now the Stars are up 3-2.
Yep.
Ottinger's have been on fire. The Wild have tried everything to kind of, get something by this guy because he's very good, and obviously he's from Minnesota, of course.
Yep. Lakeville North kid.
Yeah, a Lakeville North kid, and he's been really saving Dallas's butt. Now, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding our good fellow Zoner favorite, Marcus Foligno. He got a big penalty, a major 5-minute.
2 minutes into the game.
2 minutes into the game. And people assumed that, and the refs apparently thought he put his knee out to really, injure, but apparently that wasn't the case after seeing the replay. Yeah. And everyone on Twitter, everyone on Bally Sports West Walls saying that shouldn't be a 5-minute ending ejection.
No.
A 2-minute, sure.
For
But
sure.
that changed just everything that went on. Because after they hit that first goal, which was like seconds after what happened, it went downhill from there. So, Voldy, how are we feeling right now? I mean, it's kind of deflating.
I found an interesting stat off of that penalty, and obviously out of the series with Marcus Foligno. He's got 32 penalty minutes, and all 4 of the power play goals scored by Dallas have been off Marcus Foligno penalties. I don't know what the refs have against Marcus Foligno and the Wild. The Wild have their backs against the wall here in a 2-on-1 handicap match, and they have nobody to tag out right now because they're going 2-on-1 here against the refs and against the Stars as well. Like I said in Game 1, after Game 1, the Wild need to stay out of the penalty box in order to win the series. Unfortunately, the last 2 games, it hasn't worked that way. As when you throw in the fact, too, that they get shut out, and they get drubbed 7-2, I think it was, in Game 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
They obviously win Game 3, which was a big help too to get back up 2-1. They dropped Game 4, and it just hasn't been the same, especially with the last 2 games that they've been shut at. The last 2 games, especially with Game 5 now being shut out, or I should say Game 4 being shut out by by 4-0. And the Wild have one hand tied behind their back, and they just continue to get punched in the face. They haven't, and talking about the hit as well with Marcus Foligno, and I know it's been analyzed to death as well. If Marcus Foligno wanted to injure Foxa, I think it was, that took the hit, Marcus Foligno doesn't have to do much to hurt Foxa. I think all that Foligno has to do is just breathe in a certain direction, and Fox is going to go down because Moose is a presence out on the ice as well. And if he wanted to go knee on knee, look, as someone who's seen a lot of knee on knee hits in hockey, you're going to do more damage to the guy delivering the hit than the person that's receiving the hit too. He didn't stick his leg out. Foxa put himself in a compromising position, playing the puck, trying to come down with it, and it just so happened to be, Foligno was aiming thigh on thigh or leg on leg. It wasn't knee on knee. It just so happened to be that Foxa came down at the right point, the right angle, all things aligned perfectly to get that call. Foligno gets kicked out of the game, and the Wild are already down a guy, and then obviously fall behind 1-0. And credit to Dallas as well, taking advantage of what they got, because especially in the playoffs, if your power play is as good as it has been, especially in the opening round of the series, you could ride that all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Because there's a handful of guys that were in the Cup final. I think was it 2-3 years ago when they played against Tampa the first go around. And it is certainly definitely something to their advantage, because there's a lot of guys that have played on that big stage with, Tyler Seguin, and you throw in as well Jamie Benn too. I mean, some young guys that really stepped up, Rupe Hintz and, Robertson as well. These guys are fun to watch, and unfortunately it comes at a bad time with them playing the Wild in the first round. But literally the Wild can do nothing wrong and still find a way to do something wrong, according to the ref's state of mind. The Wild need a lot of things to go right here in Game 6 in order to have a chance to get it to 7.
So I'm going to say this. What's been missing, I feel like in these games, has been the impact, or maybe
one thing. It's one thing.
Impact of Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. And that is something that I feel like I feel like they're going to break out. And I want them, God knows, in Game 6, we need these guys to break out. And we need them to break out quickly. Yeah. And the Stars, I got to give them some credit. They're doing what they need to do to kind of shut those guys down, those playmaking abilities, things like that. But we can't be doing stupid stuff too. Right, with the penalties. But the Foligno thing, absolutely, positively, 1,000% absurd. And they compared that one to when he got nailed by one of the guys on the Avalanche. They compared both of those, And Foligno the guy didn't get ejected, and the guy, I don't know if it was a major or a minor. I don't know. The thing is him being kicked out of that game changed completely, and that's the tough thing about this is that we need those guys to. I mean, Boldy's kind of learning. This is playoff hockey. This is kind of what we need you to do. Kirill Kaprizov has just, I mean, they've just zoned in on him, and they've done a good job of it. But I feel like this Game 6, they're going to break out. The issue that I have is that if that doesn't happen, I don't see them winning the series. And, I mean, we need those guys, and we need them desperately. So that's kind of my thought on it. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, the lack of... with Kaprizov and Boldy, what do you think?
Well, the fact that Kaprizov has one goal in the series and it came the very first goal of game number 1 is just, you would have thought he would have had, 3 or 4, maybe like 10 points this series already, the way the season's gone for him. And I'm probably seeing now, especially with him missing 4 to 6 or even up to 8 weeks of the regular season, playing a handful of games towards the end of the regular season and now into this playoff series, maybe we're starting to see, obviously the adrenaline wear off of, finishing off the regular season and now to the point where maybe his legs aren't fully underneath him too. And yeah, that's definitely... The Wild needs 6 points total between Boldy and Kaprizov in Game 6 to get it to Game 7 because they get nothing out of Game 6. Guess what? Season's over. And the way the Wild season has gone as well, when Kaprizov was down, Matt Boldy took over as well. But with those two guys not playing to the potential that they have here in the latter half of the season, it's a big problem. Philip Gustafsson, the last couple of games, has looked shaky. I think the big turning point of the series, you started Marc-Andre Fleury in Game 2 after the win in Game 1 for Philip Gustafsson. And I don't know why the Wild have kept doing this the last few years in the playoffs. Why do you go with one goalie in Game 1 and switch in Game 2? The goalie that wins Game 1 is going to give you a chance in Game 2. I don't know why they keep going back and forth on this. Go with the guy that won you the first game and see if he's going to win you Game 2. If it doesn't, then you can maybe consider it. You have the Wild have a huge problem with riding the hot hand. They've been going back and forth the last few years with goaltenders left and right with these guys, and it's maddening. It's insane. It works during the regular season because especially when you've got 3 games in 4 days, and maybe one of those last games is a day game after a night game. Yeah, you start the backup as well. But why do they continue to flip back and forth? The offense needs to pick things up. You stay out of the box. Kaprizov and Boldy need 6 points in total to, make this Game 6 win, get it back for Game 7, and obviously win the series. But also a quick shout as well. Big hats off to Brock Faber, who's played very well here in this series, especially just a handful of games in the NHL. And he's looked like a veteran out on the ice as well, coming straight from the college game into the NHL too. So he's been a really nice piece, and hopefully that's for many years to come for the Wild too.
Let's hope. And I don't blame you on your rant there, and that's just something that I feel like's been an issue, and they can't ride the hot hand, things like that. So I'm with you. So gosh, I don't know. I'm kind of taking them in Game 6 here. I kind
3-2.
Yeah. The 3-2 win.
Wild win. Yep.
Let's go. I like that.
7. Yep.
Because here's the thing. There's no straight history-based thinking here. They're not, they've had experience in Game 6s, Game 7s, and they've done quite well. You go back, when they had that big run in 2003-ish, 2004.
Yep, all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Yep.
Right. So, if Kaprizov and Boldy really break out here, I'm feeling good about Game 7. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. It's going to be a good game Friday. It will be packed at the XL, and we'll be watching. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for Tater Tot Hot Take this week. A lot of negativity. Let's bring in some positivity, huh? Why don't we do some positivity? Let's talk some NFL draft. The draft is tomorrow. There's been a lot, and I mean a lot of speculation. In this chat with Mikey Ryan, we talk about, everyone's talking about the quarterbacks. We do talk about that a fair amount. And then we kind of go into, okay, give me your 3 that aren't quarterbacks that they could take. And then we make some predictions, and some of them are kind of shocking. I will say. A couple of them are kind of shocking. So enjoy this, and let us know your thoughts, too, in the comments. We'll be keeping an eye on things. So enjoy our little Vikings 2023 draft chat. It is draft season, obviously. Well, it's draft week. Excuse me. It's draft week.
Yes.
Draft week, and we're recording this on a Monday. But we wanted to make sure that we got our Vikings draft / Vikings expert, Mikey Ryan. Welcome to the show again, Mikey. No further introduction needed.
Yeah.
Whatnot. So welcome back, and we got a lot to talk about with these Vikings, huh, Mikey?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's so much stuff we gotta go through.
Exactly. So let's just hit it right off the bat here. So everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying the Vikings are going to take a quarterback. The Vikings are going to take a quarterback. So we decided, well, let's take a look at some of these prospects. Let's see what scenarios the Vikings could do with these guys that are coming through. So I want to start off with the most obvious one, and the one that I think circulated the most so far is hendonhooker.
Yep.
And Mikey, and we'll get right to Voldy right after, but do you see this as the Vikings trading back to get more picks because they know that he's probably going to be there in, let's just say, late first, early second? Or do you see them kind of trading up to solidify, hey, he's got a lot of talent. We want to make sure we get our guy. What do you think, Mikey?
It's all dependent on how much they run on quarterbacks, right? Hooker is probably the 5th, 6th guy on people's boards for a lot of it. Ideally, I would love them to trade back and get him, like people are predicting him maybe to be a very early day 2, very late day 1 type of prospect, right? So drafting or trading back maybe to get let's say the 31st or 32nd pick to get him there. Along with accruing, maybe get a 2nd round pick for it or something like that. That would be the ideal situation, right? But I don't see us drafting or trading up to get him. I think it's either he's going to fall to
All right. We're back. We're going to get you the video real quick. It looks like we just had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we're getting into some real good draft talk as well, so we apologize for the inconvenience, but we'll get that to you here ASAP. You just got to love technology these days, owners. You really, really do. But again, we talk a lot of cool stuff with this, and we'll keep you posted. So enjoy our little chat with Mikey Ryan. We'll get you back up to date here.
I mean, you had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
No.
It is draft season.
There we go.
Obviously, well, it's draft week. Excuse me.
There
It's
it is.
draft week.
Yes.
Draft week, and we're recording this on. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone that late round.
Vikings here into the draft coming up here this week.
There's been a lot of talk even today. Peter King saying that the Vikings will select Anthony Richardson. We've heard great things. We think that there is opportunity that he might go to the Texans, or he might go a little bit later. Maybe if he stays in the top 10. There's a lot to like and there's a lot to dislike about Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
So, Mikey,
For sure.
do you think that the Vikings have Richardson on their radar at all, or do you think that, do you think it's worth trading up to get a guy like Anthony Richardson at this point?
Yeah, I think the Vikings definitely have them on his radar, right? He's an outstanding talent, like everything in terms of like the tangibles that you look at, right? It's all great. Like there's a reason he's shot up the board so much and he's been this much of a talk prospect, right? Would we trade up and get him? I think it's really dependent on what the Texans decide to do with the number 2 pick, right? They're really in the limbo spot and say if they like trade back a little bit, because if they don't like a lot of the quarterbacks, especially cjstroud, I've been hearing rumblings that they might not like him as much as people initially thought. And it depends on who's our trade partner, because the Colts 100% are looking for quarterback. I think it's already known that they have their eye on one of the top 4, right? The Texans, we don't know. That could be a potential trade partner, but what I've been seeing is a lot of the Cardinals is going to be like the one that we go with, right? But jumping up there is huge. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take at least this first round pick, at least probably next year's first round pick. And probably one of the guys we need to move, like Daniil or Zadarius or Dalvin, probably would be my guess would be like Daniil or Zadarius, depending on which need they want, either an edge, like the down edge rusher, or like a pseudo linebacker edge rusher, right? It's going to take a lot of capital to get to him. Do I think he is worth that capital? It's a really big risk, big reward, right? Kind of deal. I think he probably potentially could be worth it, but does KOC risk losing? Does KOC and Quincy risk losing their jobs over this pick, right? Because that's what would happen. Like if we traded up to get him at the number 3 spot, you're tying your careers to what Anthony Richardson does. But that might just be what the Vikings need to get a jump start. Try to get to that next level and try to worry about all the other stuff, the defensive stuff, either later in the draft or with the free agency, whoever's out there still, right?
Right.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm just saying it's a huge risk.
Yeah, definitely. Voldy, what do you think?
With Richardson, he's really been the surprise out of, obviously the combine and his pro day as well. I mean, throwing balls and hitting the top of the roof at the Florida, the practice facility there. I mean, that's no surprise that he is a, otherworldly talent too. And the fact that he's turned this much heads already is no surprise. But again, it comes down to how much are you willing to put into it. Obviously, it's not going to be a straight swap for swap player for a pick or vice versa as well. You're definitely going to need to get a team or two to come along with it in order to get someone like Richardson onto your team too. And if it does end up working out that way, how long are you willing to wait is the thing. And are we going to get another Kellen Mond situation as well, where we're going to give him the benefit of a doubt, and if it doesn't work, then we got egg all over our face yet again, getting burned yet again by another SEC quarterback. I could definitely, I don't want to say I'm comfortable. I'm uncomfortably comfortable with the idea of Josh Richardson getting drafted by, Richardson getting drafted by the Vikings. I mean, it would be interesting, like Mikey said, high risk, high reward situation. But is the risk worth it? I don't want to say yes, but I don't want to say no, because once you get him into the system and, get him acclimated with the playbook and KOC style too, it could very well be a good situation overall. I mean, is he going to start, week one? No. Is he going to start maybe 2 years from now? We'll see. I mean, that's what we're looking at here for the Vikings too. Is it going to be next season or is it going to be the year after? It all depends. It's all really in Kirk's hands too. But I think getting Richardson, if he's available at 23, but I think he's going to be long gone if he comes by our way. But if he's there too, it's another good opportunity for the Vikings to strike.
Hey, here's what I'm going to say, and I'm kind of in the same boat as both of you. I would not trade up to go get him. Yeah. And that is something that I think we need to understand, with what we've seen, because he has lowlights on YouTube. So if you look up Anthony Richardson's lowlights on YouTube, you'll see some. But there are times where the guy's spectacular and he's very good, but that makes me uneasy. And I don't say that, thinking that, he's just going to be terrible, because I don't want to say that, because I think he's got a lot of potential. If he drops a 23, I'd be shocked. I mean, the Vikings would have to at that point.
Yeah.
Because think about it this way. You sit behind Kirk. I mean, Kirk, I don't think has gotten seriously hurt ever in his career or anything like that. So that he's going to learn.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah,
I did that right as I said that. And with Kirk, learning under Kirk, I think there'd be a lot of good things that he can learn. But I worry, because I also think that it's such a big risk that at this point it's not something that you want to put all your chips on with him. And I think Kwesi and KOC, a lot of this, I think the speculation and everything, they're using it as smokescreen, right? And this is the time to use it, because then teams start to second guess, or things like that. So there's two more guys, and we'll kind of go through this a little bit quickly. But cjstroud, okay, there's been a lot of talk that he might fall. He might just, it doesn't seem realistic right now, but again, anything could happen.
Right.
If he drops to, let's just throw out a number. If he drops to, let's just say 7 or something like that, no one's taking him. If you're Minnesota, a team like Minnesota, do you push all in your chips and say, let's go get him? Or do you say, I don't know if that's worth the risk? Mikey, what do you think?
I think you have to at least give it a shot, right? Because seven's what I believe the Raiders right now.
Yeah.
They already have their quarterback, right? They have Garoppolo.
Yep.
You have. I think at that point you have to try to like fire the bullet. You got to try to take the shot. I think CJ Stroud is, he's been in the top two. Him and Bryce Young. It's always been the conversation this entire offseason, right? And for good reason. They both have everything you kind of look for in a quarterback. Bryce Young's a little more of a composed passer, where CJ Stroud's kind of like you can mold him to be your quarterback, right? He's got a little more of the rough edges. He's younger, he's taller, right? He's got the prototypical build, to where like you kind of have to take the shot there, right? I think as like most Minnesota Vikings fans, if you trade up to 7 to get CJ Stroud, I think we're calling it a dub, and we're just like, sure, we'll figure out the defense. We'll figure out the defense later. We got our quarterback of the future at that point. So I think it's definitely worth the risk, right? I think the risk at that point would be a little more mitigated. It wouldn't be as big of a risk, but it's definitely the reward would be there.
I think before we get to Voldy here, I think the one downside about Stroud is his size. He's a little bit shorter, give or take, but I think you can get away with that because people have proven like, hey, it doesn't matter what how tall you are or anything like that. You can be still very effective in this National Football League. So, Voldy, what do you think? Do you think 7 around there definitely trade up to get Stroud?
Get the trade up and get him. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you would definitely put it all out there and figure it out. I mean, you can get guys off the street to play defense relatively easily. I mean, it's worked for the Patriots for God knows how long with Bill Belichick at the forefront. But, I think you'd go in for a guy like CJ Stroud. Yes, obviously the size is the big thing too, but playmaking ability is playmaking ability. And you'd like to see that, especially at the NFL level too. And, as it's taken other Ohio State quarterbacks a little bit longer to get adjusted and get acclimated. Justin Fields is not going to be terrible forever, and especially with him, the first couple seasons taking a lot of licks and obviously getting more comfortable with the way the play and the speed of the game, that could very well be CJ Stroud in a couple of years too, if he gets that opportunity. But I think if you want to go all in and go after him, I think it would be that time right at that 7 spot for sure.
So keep an eye on it. Let's see how it progresses and go from there. Let's move on to this other one. There has been a mock draft, gentlemen, that has the Vikings trading up to that 2nd spot and taking willlevis.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I think we might have some different opinions right here. So I can't wait. Let's Mikey, what are your thoughts on Levis? The Vikings would have to trade, let's just say Za'Darius or Cooks, guys like that, Daniil or whatever, at that 2nd spot. I mean, is that too absurd at that point to trade up to get a guy like Levis?
Trading up to 2, right, it's going to be a lot, right? Trading up for 2 from Levis, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. not a fan. I'm telling you, Will Levis and like Voldy, opinion might be different. I think it is, but Will Levis reminds me a lot about like what Trubisky was pre-draft. Like not necessarily in the like the tangibles, right? Like everyone talks about like how good Trubisky was, but it's 1 year. That's the same thing. Will Levis had 1 year at Kentucky, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. But it's like, come on. Like he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback, right? I think he will have some success. I just don't rate him as like the other 3. I think Will Levis is somewhere like middle middle first round, just because quarterbacks are so inflated, right? In their draft capital. But if you're trading up to the number 2 spot, you take Richardson, you take Stroud. I think Bryce Young has already been signed for with the Panthers. I think that's a done deal. But you take those 2. If you're trading up for Will Levis, it's a head scratcher for me for sure.
Well, there we go. Voldy, what do you think?
Moving up to 2 to get Willlevis at number 2, I want to call it 2 things. A sexy pick is what it is right there, because you're really putting
Okay.
yourself out there in many different arenas as well. You know, the smart fan would say that's a terrible decision, but I think you look at the guy. Obviously, the tangibles are there too. Guy is yoked. Guy can throw his way out of anything as well. Playing in the SEC, yes, he did play at Kentucky. One true year, I think maybe a year and a half starting at Kentucky as well. Sometimes it's all you need. Worked out well for Mitch Trubisky. He's still in the NFL. So, I mean, a lot of guys have done more with less in that area too. But to move up to number 2 to get Willlevis, I think you might as well just pack up the bags and move the team to somewhere else, I think, at that point, because there's not going to be a whole lot of fandom after that. But at this point, you don't want to throw anything out with that. But I'm moving up to 2 to get Willlevis, I think, is somebody just probably putting that out there for clickbait in many areas.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, for sure.
exactly. Well,
with the contract, maybe even moving up in the draft, or maybe getting a couple of stock picks.
Johnson from TCU.
Yeah.
If there was, I like Johnson. I think he's a go up and get it type of guy. And again, TCU, there's a reason why they went to the national championship game. I mean, they got destroyed, but it doesn't mean that, that's on Quentinjohnston or anything. So I think that's a guy you really have to strongly consider if you really want to have a really good offense with that. So my second one, I'll say, is kind of more the sticking with that offensive route with Jordanaddison. And Mikey, you mentioned it too. You add him as the slot. Kirk, I think, really does well with guys that come out of the slot. And I think that if you add him with Jefferson, KJ Osborne, that's going to give you a lot of a nice deep threat that you didn't really have with Adam. But now that you have a speedster like that and it can come out of the slot, hey, you're in business, right? So I'd start to, kind of look at that as well. And my third one, I've been kind of back and forth on this, and it's something that I think would be very intriguing just to kind of see where people are, leaning towards. And there's been a lot of corners that have been, put up there and, seeing how things, pan out. But I gotta agree with Voldy. Joey Porter Jr. is someone that I think would be a possible steal if he falls. And I think that's something. I think he's a corner that Flores could really mold into a really great player. And if you pair him with Byron Murphy there, that defense is looking pretty doggone good in that with those D-backs. We still have Harrison Smith, Dirty Harry in back there. You have Cam Bynum, who's been, just doing really well too. I worry about linebackers and things like that, but I want to see in that second round, maybe they get somebody that can, come in. Brian Asamoah, don't forget about him either. I mean, that's a guy that I think they can do a lot of good things within the new Flores defense. So, all right, guys, to end things off, we know that the bold predictions, it's probably not going to happen because this is so unexpected. Almost every draft is unexpected, right? So, Mikey, what is your bold prediction? What are the Vikings going to do in the draft on Thursday?
So my bold prediction, I think we're gonna have 2 first-round draft picks, I think, this year. I think we're going, okay. I know, right? I think we're probably gonna stay at 23, but I think if we really like someone, like either in the mid-round or even like after we pick, right? I think we have the pieces in place. I know we need to offload some of the contracts. We talk about Cook, we talk about Hunter, talk about Za'Darius all the time, right? I think this would be the ideal time to if we wanted to offload those contracts, right, get them on other teams and go get some nice young pieces, either defensively or, hey, if someone falls down, say, like we talked about quarterbacks this entire time, something like Willlevis falls down, I wouldn't be a huge fan, but hey, if they like him, they like him. Or if like Anthonyrichardson falls down or CJStroud falls down, you got to go and get them, right? But I would like to see a 2 first-round pick Spielman type of deal where we go and kind of wheel and deal and get a lot of these picks because we need them. We need them bad.
Yep. Exactly. So, do you have a selections for those 2 first rounds?
So
what do you got?
I'm gonna say we're gonna go in the middle. So I gotta pull up the draft order here. Probably let's just say throw out a hat, like the Patriots or something like that, right? We trade with the Patriots and we grab at that point probably Anthonyrichardson gone. So let's just say at 14 we grab Willlevis. I would say that would probably be the pick there. Yeah, it would have all these great. And then add 23. I think I like Joey Porter Jr. I really do. I think he's a great corner. I just think he might be gone at that point. So that's why I picked Deontebanks. But either one of those at 23, I think would be excellent choices.
All right. That's a pretty bold one. So, Voldy, what's yours, my friend?
I look at the way the draft has gone over the years with the Vikings too, with the Rick Spielman era, partnering with guys like Brad Childress. If we're talking Leslie Frazier, Mike Zimmer, and of course, Kevin O'Connell as well. But you look at where we're at right now. New GM, new front office. Last year was kind of, we're making it up as we go. Here's our draft class. This is the first true draft class that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell are looking at here. They've had a full year under their belts. Let's pick the team that we want. And for too long, the Vikings have been stay in our spot, fall where go where the chips may lie. It's worked out well in the past. I mean, it worked out how we got Justin Jefferson, when the Eagles took Jalen Reagor, but yet the Vikings still ended up with Jalen Reagor. Another story, another time as well. But I think this is the draft for the Vikings break out of their shell and make something happen. Not only are they going to get multiple chances in round number 1, but I think they also get a little something on top of it all as well. It's going to take some coordination. It's going to be one of those, you pick this guy, we're going to give you our pick, we'll pick this guy in your stead, flip flop, everybody's happy at the end of the day. A little dealing under the table, if you will. So I think the Vikings are going to move up in the draft. And just so happens to be in a situation, we've talked about it before, I do think that they go after a young quarterback. I think they go after a guy that is quite prominent in many features, maybe not so much out of the SEC, but just one thing that, continues to be talked about in certain circles, but maybe isn't being overly talked about. I think the Vikings go out, make a deal. It's just right for a certain team that's got a very, let's just say a very crowded quarterback room right now. I think the Vikings go out and trade for Trey Lance. They get him out of San Fran. They bring him back to familiar circles. Maybe that helps take the ease off. Maybe that puts a whole other state of pressure. But sometimes the best diamonds are forged under the heaviest of pressure. And that's one thing we've talked about the last few weeks with Trey Lance. We don't know what we've got until we see it all play out. So I think the Vikings package a deal to not only get another pick in the first round, but also get Trey Lance and part of that contract. And I think with that pick, maybe they go out and they get a guy such as a Joey Porter Jr. as well. Maybe they move up. I forget where, I think they're sitting in the top 10 right now with San Fran, or maybe a little bit later on, but they still go and get him. And I think with that second pick in the first round, maybe they look towards that defensive line. I'd really like to see Lucas Van Ness, if he's still around in that spot too. Maybe it takes a little bit of that reshuffling, like I talking about, with one team picking him, flipping his rights over to them, while the Vikings pick for that other team too. That's my bold prediction for the draft coming up.
All right, I like that one.
Many puzzle pieces happening.
Yeah, many puzzle pieces happening. Here's mine, and this is something that I think is very possible in this situation. we kind of mentioned it before. I threw in the number 7. I think, Mikey, you said the Raiders would, be around
Yep.
then and there. I'm going to go out on a limb here, fellas. The Vikings are going to trade up, and this quarterback's going to fall. They're going to take CJ Stroud. He just spit. I can't believe that. Spit. But I think he is going to fall, and the Vikings are going to take him. They're going to trade up with Las Vegas. They're going to go out. They're going to get CJ Stroud. He's going to learn under Kirk Cousins, and we're going to get it done. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. So
that's a bold one.
That's
Isn't
bold.
Isn't it?
Borderline crazy.
Yeah, borderline crazy. But I'm like I said, these predictions are probably wrong. Like I said, they might be wrong. I don't know.
Who knows?
Again, gun to my head, just trying to see how it goes. But the Stroud thing, the Levis, I'm not, I'm not like against or anything like that.
Right.
But again, there's a lot to be said with that. So, anyway, apologies for the mishap. Again, technology wasn't my friend. But the good news is that we are good to go for ARA to wrap up the show, and you can watch the full length. Segment as well on the YouTubes, and we'll send that out to you guys. Obviously, before we get going here on the NFL draft tomorrow. So, anyway, let's get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, something that we've been waiting to see become official finally came official, not only as of earlier this week, but as of today as well, with the Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets working out a deal for the Aaron Rodgers trade itself, as the Packers agreed on Monday to deal quarterback Aaron Rodgers, as well as their number 15 overall pick in this year's draft, a 5th-round pick, which is number 170, to the Jets for the 1st-round pick for the Jets, which is now pick number 13, a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft, number 42, and a 6th-round pick, number 207, as well as a conditional 2024 pick, which could be elevated to a 1st-round pick if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays this season, thus cementing Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay is null and void. Now, he is now on Broadway with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets being official as of today. Now, given the offseason that has taken place with the moves made by the New York Jets and now officially Aaron Rodgers in gang green, are the New York Jets, absurd or approved, poised for a playoff spot with their current roster going into this season?
That's a tough question. I'll say this, they're not going to win the division. I can tell you that much, and it feels being $50 richer. By the way, I forgot to mention that. Matt Metzler, you owe me some money. Obviously, with Rodgers going to gang green, now it's official. So I'm enjoying that a lot. So Voldy, gosh, it's hard to say. I'll say yes. And the reason why I say yes, it's going to be a wild card spot. I think they have enough talent to be a wild card team.
Yes.
They're not going to win the division because I think it's still Buffalo's.
Yep.
New England is sneaky. You still got Belichick. He's very sneaky. He can maybe frustrate Rodgers. You never know. So you have that going for you. But then you look at Miami. Everyone's liking what they're doing too. So, I mean, there's a lot of upside with with the Jets, but there's a lot of upside with these other teams too. So I think they'll sneak in. The question I have is, they're not going to, hopefully they don't break down when they get to the playoffs, at the end of the season, like they did against, or like they did at the end of the season this season, because they have a really good defense. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have a very good defense. No, definitely not. And they offensively, they were putrid. You have Breece Hall coming back. That's great. I mean, Garrett Wilson's a very good wide receiver. They're probably going to add more here in the draft. But, I'd say stamp of approval, but it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. I honestly, I'm saying that. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. But with Aaron Rodgers, he still might have lost a little bit here or there, but I still think he'll be effective. So
right.
Stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be something that they are poised to do as well. It's definitely going to be in a wild card spot. It's definitely Buffalo's division to lose. The AFC East is very competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if the AFC East has the type of year the way the NFC East had this past offseason, with all four teams vying for that division title before even the end of the season. Heck, even the AFC East wasn't even fully decided up until the last, 3-4 weeks of the season at most, and it took the last 2 weeks before the NFC East was even decided too. You look up the overall makeup of the Jets right now. Of course, you got Aaron Rodgers. Running game situation, obviously you have Michael Carter. Then you have Breece Hall, who would have been the rookie of the year up until that knee injury that he had. Then the wide receiver core, you do have Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, you have McCole Hardman as well, and Allen Lazard, who was obviously a favorite and a target of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Then the tight end situation, you got a pretty good solid tight end room with CJ Uzama and even Tyler Conklin as well, Gronklin, if you will, to go along with an offensive line that could use a little bit of reassuring as well. You know, you've got Connor McGovern, Mekhi Becton, Laken Tomlinson as well. But, you've got some guys that are maybe questionable with some injuries coming back after last season. And, the defense isn't all that bad as well. They've got some playmakers on the defensive side. It all really comes down to, if they don't break down towards the back half of the season, can they play meaningful games in the last couple of weeks and obviously vie for a division? I don't know if that's going to happen year one, but I think they'll make a serious run. I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. It's got my stamp of approval.
But how good does it feel that he's out of the NFC North? He's gone. We don't
Kirk
have
Cousins
to deal with
is
it.
now the best quarterback in the NFC. Put it down.
And I don't know if you saw this, but somebody said that Jordan Love was the best quarterback in the NFC North. That's up for absurd statement material and whatnot. So, but unfortunately, we'll have to wait and see with this upcoming season. Obviously, Kirk Cousins, yes, is the best quarterback in the NFC North.
Bar none.
And he's better than Goff. He's better than Fields. Definitely better than Jordan Love right now. So, hate us if you want, but it's true. That's just facts and stats. So, all right, next one, Voldy.
Well, last week we were talking about if maybe Salt Lake City was going to get a Major League Baseball team. Well, now we found out shortly after the show last week that Las Vegas is going to be getting a Major League Baseball team, as it was announced that the Oakland Athletics have come to an agreement with the city of Las Vegas and the ownership group that will be moving the franchise to Las Vegas to a team, to a facility along the Las Vegas Strip that will be, I believe, fully enhanced, and the full move will be taking place by 2027. But that means the team will be moving before too long as well, as they signed a binding agreement, the franchise had announced, to purchase land for a retractable roof ballpark close to the Las Vegas Strip after being unable to reach an agreement, of course, to construct a new venue in the Bay Area. The A's have been trying to, obviously update the Coliseum for a number of years, and maybe even exploring options of moving, to San Jose, the Fremont area, right along Oakland's waterfront as well. But unfortunately, hasn't come to be, with attendance dwindling down over the last few years, and even fans doing a reverse boycott shortly after the announcement, where they're actually going to show up to A's games to, say that A's fans aren't fully there. But is it absurd or approved? I know last week I mentioned as well, I don't know what Las Vegas would do with baseball, because, hockey and football are pretty self-explanatory. Those are hockey and football towns as well. But with the Las Vegas A's, if they choose to continue to be the A's, will they outperform the A's teams that we've seen maybe in the last 5 years? Is that absurd or approved?
It's a great question. I'm not going to lie. With the big venue, too, Voldy, I like it just for the fact of them going into a little bit more of a bigger market. And let's not forget that, Oakland was a big baseball town. And obviously, the place that they have is just run down. It's old. It's not very, it's bad. But I think they will. I think they will. When you have something like that, and then you have a stadium with a retractable roof, I wonder what baseball team could have been useful with that. Maybe Twins, maybe? I don't know. But I think they very well could. Obviously, they've gone through some struggles and whatnot, but I think they can be successful in Las Vegas. And yes, I've ripped Las Vegas because of all these teams in there with hockey, with the Raiders going there. But I think it makes sense because no one's really going around there. I think they're going to be better off. There's going to be guys that want to go there because, well, it's Vegas, baby, and it is a good area. So I will say that, and I think a lot of players would want to go there. So yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I think they'll do a lot better than what they've done the 5 years before. So Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for Oakland as well, especially with the teams that they had from 2011 to 2015 when you had guys like Grant Balfour. You had guys like Josh Donaldson. You had the Derek Norrises of the group as well that just made baseball fun, which was great to see. I've seen a lot of the video of Grant Balfour when he'd come out of the bullpen as well to close out games, and the fans would just go crazy and everything. That was great. That was great baseball for them at that time. But unfortunately, the last few years haven't been good for them as well. It'd be great if I could ever reach out to a former Rochester honker and Tony Kemp, who actually plays for Oakland right now. He's an infielder, outfielder for them, who won a World Series with Houston a few years ago as well. See his thoughts on it, or at least, he's been playing and he's been really good over these last few years out of Vanderbilt. But, getting back to the point as well, with the team moving to Las Vegas, I mean, the current lease on the team expires in 2024. So after next season, it looks like it will be the A's having to either they're going to have to move, and it looks like potentially there has been discussion of the A's playing at their AAA affiliate, the Las Vegas Aviators, for the time being before a new stadium would get built. That's nothing too unfamiliar, especially when COVID was happening as well. Toronto had to play in Buffalo. They played in Florida for a good portion of that shortened season as well during the 60-game season. But with Vegas, I mean, they've got some young players potentially as well. If they can hang on to a few guys too, maybe make a few right trades, they can certainly be competitive. I don't know to the point of the years past where they were vying for AL West titles. I mean, it's still Houston's division to lose. I think the team will be competitive because who doesn't say, hey, the Twins are playing in Las Vegas, in early April. a quick little turn and burn for a weekend series, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to checking out some baseball in Las Vegas, at the start of the Major League Baseball season. Have to keep that in mind for the future. I think it's got my stamp of approval. I think Vegas is going to be better for Oakland for them. It's just unfortunate because when you think athletics, you think Oakland with the teams that they've had great success in the 90s, in the 80s. They had that little stretch in the teens as well. But, we'll see what Vegas has to offer for them in the future.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. So we'll see. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, we're going to go to college football here, and something that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, and we're talking Oklahoma. Now, the Sooners have had really good quarterbacks over the last few years that have gone on to do bigger and better things. Well, the University of Oklahoma had their spring game here this past week, and with there being said, all the names that come to mind that have played quarterback at Oklahoma the last few years, the Sam Bradfords, the Baker Mayfields, if you will,
yep.
The Jalen Hurtses of the squad. Oh, yeah, Kylermurray also was quarterback at Oklahoma. Well, they decided to unveil a statue this past University of Oklahoma for the annual spring game. Which of the quarterbacks have decided to get a statue in front of their stadium? Kyler Murray. That's right. Kyler Murray is now forever immortalized with his own bronze statue. Now, he was there in attendance. I saw that Baker Mayfield was there as well to check out things with the spring game. And it just was very interesting of all the guys that they could have picked. And at least the last 10 years that have been at quarterback. I mean, you go back to Sam Bradford's time as well at quarterback. Is it absurd or approved that Kyler Murray has his own statue at Oklahoma? And also, who do you think else should get a statue as well, if not at the University of Oklahoma?
Not Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Look, the guy was very good in college. The guy's not too bad in the NFL. But let me preface.
It is.
I mean, let me preface this by saying this, okay? Kyler Murray is, yes, he is a very good quarterback in college, but in the NFL, he's okay. Now, why does this bug me is because I just don't feel like he's really earned it, I feel like he's kind of one of those guys that you look at and say, why does he have a statue up there, Baker, obviously, they loved him there. Like, I kind of get that one, but not Kyler.
No.
I'm not a fan of that. And not only that, I don't think was he there 2 seasons? Or like starting 2, excuse me. Was he starting for 2 seasons for Oklahoma? Or was he back up to Mayfield, he takes over, and then goes to the NFL, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, I think he was at least 1 season for sure. Obviously, That was the Heisman season. But, honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I want to say he was there because he was back up to Baker off his Heisman season as well. And that was when he was flip-flopping between baseball as well, too.
Right. So, no, I don't think. I think it's absurd. But who else should get one? I like as much as I hate to say it. I mean, just because I think he was very good for Oklahoma. Sam Bradford does he have one? Am I?
He does not, as far as I'm aware.
He should have one before Kyler Murray, and that might sound absurd, and you can rip me for that. I don't care. I just don't think Kyler Murray deserves to have a bronze statue out there for Oklahoma. I just feel like he had, a season and a half where he was very, very good, but
right.
I just don't see why you put him up there like that. So, I think it's absurd. Voldy, what do you got?
So looking at Kyler Murray's numbers, believe it or not, he started his career at Texas A&M. he was with
right.
Cliff Kingsbury and squad, Kevin Sumlin as well, for his first season in 2015. Then he had to sit out 2016 because he entered the transfer portal. That's an old wives' tale as now. So he was in 2017, 2018 as well. But 2017 he was the backup to Baker, and then 2018 he went off for the for the Heisman Trophy. So basically a season and some change, if you will, at Oklahoma. Look, everything that's gone on the last couple of years at the pro level for Kylermurray, I certainly would not put him in the category of getting a statue now. Maybe you look 5-10 years down the road from right now.
Exactly.
Then you can give him a trophy. Like when RG3 got a statue with the new stadium. Basically, that's at Baylor. That's the reason that stadium was built. Finally, because that one great year that Baylor had in him, winning the Heisman Trophy too. I would definitely give it more time. Is the thing? Is he worthy of a statue? No. He won the Heisman Trophy. That's it. Other guys that were there, for the spring game, of course, we did mention, Baker Mayfield, Sam Bradford was there. Billy Sims, another former Sooner as well. That was very great. He was certainly a very interesting reason to give him a statue, even after literally one good season, and that's all you need nowadays for him to get a statue as well. Other guys that deserve a statue, throwing it back as well. I mean, I don't know why Brian Bosworth doesn't have a statue to Oklahoma. Yeah. I mean, there's some other great guys. You might as well throw out. I'm surprised.
Adrian, right?
Yeah, exactly. Adrian Peterson, he definitely would deserve a statue too. Sam Bradford certainly could be in consideration too. Baker, I don't know why Baker doesn't have a statue if he doesn't already at Oklahoma. There's a lot of guys you could throw out there that could certainly be worthy of a statue at Oklahoma too. I mean, I'll have to do a little bit more digging. I don't know if Case Keenum's got a statue outside the football stadium in Houston. If not, let's get on that, Houston, because he's coming back and he's going to be around a lot longer. So definitely put him in consideration to consider him, put him in bronze. It's completely absurd that Kylermurray has his own statue.
Here's my question. Is the statue of him playing football or him playing Call of Duty?
Sadly, I just saw a picture of it, and it's him playing football as well. I'm surprised they didn't put a little one of those gaming headsets on him.
They should have. Someone's going to climb up there. So I don't know how big it is to put it on him. That'd be hilarious.
There'll be some idiot that puts something up there.
I hope
for
so.
Sure.
I hope so. Actually, they'd be a genius if they put it on there. I'll give them. But yeah, exactly. There'll probably be something. All right, last one, Voldy.
Well, the Tennessee Titans have been no strangers to making big trades on the night of the draft, if not very close to draft night as well. And, well, one thing that's been kind of floating around here in the ether a little bit is the situation with running back, the king himself, Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. And Titans general manager Ron Carthon has said that the team has not been fielding any calls regarding Pro Bowl running back Derrick Henry as well. But there have been some tweets, there's been some conversation in the media as well about whether Derrick Henry is going to be staying much longer in Tennessee as well. He's entering his last season as well. Currently, the final season of his 4-year, $50 million contract he signed in 2020. 1,500 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, and he's two-time NFL rushing champion as well. But he's getting to the back half of his career where definitely there's been a few more injuries as of late that have held him out a significant number of games, not running to the same power, of course, at the start of his year where he's been the main guy in the offense. Either the offense is going to go with Derrick Henry or it's going to not run with Derrick Henry as well, pun intended. But is it absurd or proof? Will the Titans, because wasn't it last year the Titans traded A.J. Brown on draft night to the Eagles? And, well, look how that happened. The Eagles made it all the way to the Super Bowl with A.J. Brown as their number one wide receiver. Is it absurd or proof that the Titans will take serious looks at trading Derrick Henry?
You know, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, the big question, Voldy,
it is draft
season. Obviously, well, it's draft week. Excuse me, it's draft week.
Yes.
Draft. It's very interesting in this aspect because if you're gonna do it once, you might as well do it again. You know, that whole deal. But I also I'm cognizant of how, what's his name? Mike Vrabel works.
Vrabel, yep.
And you know, they have a lot of question marks, I would say, you know, with this team. I mean, obviously Tannehill's not going to be the guy. Now I'm hearing reports that the Titans are like totally out on Malik Willis now or something. There's been rumors. I don't know if that's confirmed or anything like that, but I mean, the guy's literally only played 1 year. So,
literally.
I mean,
barely a year.
Right, barely a year. So, I mean, you can't just give up on that now. But if you're going to trade Derrick Henry, you better get some darn good stuff in return because you're definitely going to want a first rounder, at least 2 in that aspect, because technically he's been their whole offense.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You trade away a guy with A.J. Brown, he goes to the Eagles, literally almost going to win a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I mean, they didn't, but I mean, I heard that there was some rumor that he was going to be traded to the Eagles, and all of a sudden it's Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. I mean, oh my gosh, that would just be insane. But I don't know what other team. Maybe the Dolphins. I mean, but that's even saying much because that offense is a little bit different from, you know, what Henry's used to. So,
yes.
You know what? Stamp of approval. I think they will. I think the Eagles are very much in the market for one. But what's very tantalizing, though, for the Eagles is Bijan Robinson, who's a very good running back for the Longhorns. So, and I know Voldy, horns down. But, I mean, he's very good. We'll say that. So, there we go. So, I'll say, stamp of approval. I think they will. What do you think, Voldy?
Yeah, I think the Titans are in a situation where they are looking to refresh the offense, if not refresh the team as a whole, because they've had a couple of years where they've wanted to obviously make that next step. They've been in the playoffs. They've, you know, done their best to try and push their way through, but they've run into teams like Baltimore. They've run into teams like Cincinnati that have held them back from their true full potential. And they're on the backside of a lot of careers too, and especially with Derrick Henry. I mean, he's looking to make $16.5 million this season. That's a big cap hit for this season too. And there's $6 million in cap space right now. If you trade that away, that's going to help bring in another crop of talent as well for the Titans too. So I would not be surprised if they trade him on draft night because, Derrick Henry, he's training in Dallas. So I saw that Dallas at least needs a number 2 running back, if not a 1A, if not a 1B, because they do have Tony Pollard, who finally is getting the love that he deserves in Dallas with, Zeke Elliott, Zeke Elliott out of Dallas, I think he got released by them.
Yes, he did. Yes.
He did get released. So, he's on the market right now, and definitely, you put you put a silver star on the side of the head of Derrick Henry. That'll certainly make a few people very happy too. But I could definitely see them trading them on draft night. It's got my stamp of approval. I would not be surprised, especially with guys like Ryan Tannehill being asked to take a pay cut. Kevin Byard as well, who's on the defensive side at the safety position, getting asked to take a pay cut as well. So they're in a little bit of a turnaround with this new GM that they have, Mike Vrabel. I wouldn't say Mike Vrabel's on a hot seat right now, because if you have another struggle of a season that they've had the last couple of years, certainly would be very interesting what they turn out with them at the head coaching spot. And Malik Willis, if he's going to be the guy of the future, or if he's just going to be another flash in the pan to get himself drafted too. I mean, they have a lot of question marks in Tennessee, but if they trade away, Derrick Henry, I would not be surprised. So it's got my stamp of approval.
Yeah, there might be a lot. I mean, this is so unpredictable right now. There's a lot of things that could happen. So, all right, that'll do it for Absurd or Approved. Great job as always, Voldy. And let's get to some Shield shoutouts. It's time. It's that time again. So let's get it going. Let's shoutouts.
Shield Shoutouts.
All right, it is time for some Shield shout-outs. And Shield, who are you shouting out tonight?
Well, I do have to give one big shout out as well, of course, with Major League Baseball season well in its full swing right now. One guy's finally getting his due justice as well after spending over a decade in the minor league system. 33-year-old infielder Drew Maggi, who was a former Twins farmhand as well, got all the way up to the taxi squad for the Twins during the COVID era of Major League Baseball, but unfortunately didn't quite crack the Twins 40-man roster as well. Well, he's getting called up at the age of 33 years old by the Pittsburgh Pirates after playing over 1,100 games of minor league baseball, over 4,400 at-bats in minor league baseball. Drew Maggi was called up over the weekend with the Pittsburgh Pirates as well to get his first chance of what it's like in a major league clubhouse as well. So a big Shield shout out to former Twins farmhand and now major leaguer Drew Maggi after a very long wait for his turn to get his name called. Drafted in 2010, believe it or not, and finally getting a chance to get a life at the major league level. So big Shield shout out to Drew Maggi this week. And that's going to do it for Shield shout outs this week.
Boom. There it is. Short but sweet. Short but sweet.
Yes,
We love it. So, great job with Shield shoutouts this week, Voldy. And as we always do, guys, we've got merch. We got plenty of merch. We got some new merch coming in.
It's coming.
It's coming. You just gotta wait on it. Just wait on it. It's coming. So, stickers $2, $3 for the big ones, $2 for the small ones, and then the shirts $20, $5 shipping. Then we got the hats, $20, $5 shipping for those. Those are pretty sweet, and it's getting to be summer, or it's getting closer and closer to summer here.
I hope so.
You might want to have a hat. I mean, it's probably going to be raining a little bit this weekend and things like that. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out W2 Performance, Earl Ortel, at w2performance.com. Make sure you check out his stuff. And then thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers. And make sure you check out the Victorious P.O.D. with Jack Vickers and Ryan Herman. So make sure you check those guys out. And they got fantasy stuff. So make sure you get zoned in on that. Pun intended there. So well, good luck to the Minnesota Wild. Good luck to our Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, the Twins are playing. So it's going to be a fun draft night tomorrow. Friday's going to be a great game against the Stars. So a lot of Minnesota stuff happening. So we'll keep you in tune with that. So make sure you check all of that fun stuff out. All right, that's going to do it for MinneZona Sports Live. And remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.